You wake up, grab your breakfast, and check the news. Suddenly, you see two wildly different headlines. One says, Kamala Harris wins presidency, new taxes, climate push, and economic overhaul on the horizon. The other says, Donald Trump secures another term, promised tax cuts, trade deals, and an America First revival in the works. Which path would truly benefit you, your wallet, and the future of the American dream? Stick around, because we are about to compare these two scenarios side by side and reveal which stocks could skyrocket or tumble depending on who's in charge. You are standing in your kitchen, still groggy from last night's news marathon. The country is buzzing with anticipation. On one channel, pundits rave about President Trump's ambitious plans to restore manufacturing, lower taxes, and bring new hope to every corner of the United States. On another, you hear a rundown of what a Kamala Harris presidency might have meant: sweeping climate legislation, expanded social programs, and a shift in corporate tax policy. Today, we are comparing these two worlds. First, we will dive into the alternate timeline where Harris won the presidency, painting a picture of how rising gas prices, inflation concerns, and interest rate hikes might have affected your everyday life. Then, we will snap back to reality, exploring Trump's renewed term, focusing on how he aims to strengthen the average American by putting the American dream within reach for more people. By the end, you will know which 5 stocks you might have invested in under Harris, and which 5 stocks stand to benefit now that Trump is in the White House. Whether you are worried about your next electric bill or dreaming of your first million in the stock market, this video is your one-stop guide. So let us jump in. And if you are eager to stay ahead of the political and economic curve, hit that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns. Let us travel to an alternate timeline where Kamala Harris took the oath of office. Her administration opens by tackling environmental issues. She signs executive orders restricting new oil drilling and funneling billions of dollars into renewable energy projects. The aim is to reduce carbon emissions, but the effect at the pump could leave you reeling. Gas prices start edging upward, partly due to reduced domestic production and partly due to new environmental taxes on fossil fuels. You might find yourself asking, why is filling my tank suddenly costing a lot more? Then you look at your grocery receipt. Prices creep higher there too. With energy costs increasing, farmers pay more to run equipment, and freight companies pass along extra fuel expenses to you, the consumer. Before you know it, your weekly grocery budget is stretched thin. Meanwhile, the Harris administration pushes for broader healthcare coverage. If you are someone who struggled to afford medical insurance, maybe you see new options open up. But if you own a small business like Mark, who runs a local landscaping company, you might face additional costs for mandatory health coverage. Mark worries that between rising gas prices for his trucks, new health insurance rules, and potential tax hikes for businesses, it will be tougher to maintain a profit. Then there is the Federal Reserve. As inflation fears escalate, thanks to hefty government spending on green infrastructure and social programs, the Fed might feel pressure to hike interest rates. That can slow the economy by making mortgages, car loans, and credit card debt more expensive. As an aspiring homeowner, you might find that house you have been saving for now carries a higher monthly mortgage cost. Banks also tighten lending, making it harder for entrepreneurs to access capital. At the same time, Harris's team aims to stabilize the dollar on the global stage by forging alliances focused on climate collaboration. Critics argue that these alliances could undermine U.S. manufacturing competitiveness, driving jobs overseas, unless policies are carefully balanced. On top of that, some worry about global powers eyeing the U.S. dollar's position as the world's reserve currency. Rapid spending, rising debt, and more competition from rival economies could weaken confidence in the dollar over time. Still, the Harris administration frames these challenges as growing pains, believing that clean energy investments and expanded social programs will eventually level the playing field for working families. Skeptics are less convinced. They see the combination of higher gas prices, interest rate hikes, and increased taxation as a recipe for economic strain, at least in the short run. Now, before you decide whether a Harris presidency is doom and gloom or a noble step forward, let us explore which stocks might have weathered the storm, and possibly even thrive, under her leadership. First, Tesla. With strong federal backing for electric vehicles, Tesla could benefit from tax credits for EV purchases, boosting demand. While rising electricity costs might cut margins, government incentives could offset that. Second, First Solar. Solar projects see big funding under Harris's climate agenda. First Solar might secure lucrative contracts to outfit government buildings, schools, and even suburban neighborhoods seeking cleaner energy. Third, NextEra Energy. As a leader in wind and solar utility projects, NextEra Energy might lock in long-term deals with a government keen to replace older fossil fuel power plants. Fourth, Moderna. Expanded healthcare coverage, new research grants, and a focus on public health mean more funding for biotech innovations. Moderna, already established in vaccine tech, might ride the wave of heightened government investment. Fifth, Johnson & Johnson. With broader insurance coverage comes more patients able to pay for prescriptions and treatments. Johnson & Johnson's wide range of medical products could see rising demand, even if healthcare reforms cap certain pricing. Yet, none of these investments are guaranteed winners. If inflation surges, manufacturing costs for solar panels or medical products could rise, cutting into profits. A strong pushback from Congress or the courts could stall climate legislation, limiting growth for green firms. Ultimately, Harris's agenda relies on balancing environmental imperatives with economic realities, a juggling act that could topple if not carefully managed. You might be asking, is there a better path for everyday Americans? Let us jump back to the actual outcome, where Donald Trump has secured another term. The mood is electric at his first press conference. Trump declares that his primary goal is to strengthen the average American by ensuring stable jobs, affordable energy, and fair trade agreements that put the United States in the driver's seat. First, energy. Under Trump, domestic oil drilling ramps up, pipelines expand, and regulatory hurdles are scaled back. You might notice gas prices dropping or at least stabilizing, putting a few extra dollars back in your pocket each week. If you run a small business that depends on deliveries, your shipping costs might go down, allowing you to cut prices or invest in growth. Meanwhile, interest rates might remain relatively stable or even trend lower, as the administration pressures the Fed to keep money cheap and business expansion thriving. This environment could also discourage foreign competitors, because the administration leverages tariffs and trade deals to protect American industries. Yes, you might see tension in global markets, but Trump's supporters argue that these negotiations ultimately bring manufacturing back home. On the dollar front, Trump's economic policies can reinforce global confidence in U.S. assets if investors see a strong labor market and robust corporate earnings. Although critics warn about increasing national debt, many supporters believe that a booming economy will generate enough tax revenue to offset the spending. It all boils down to a simple message: making the American dream accessible to the working class again. Whether you are buying your first home, launching a startup, or expanding your family, having more disposable income and a thriving domestic economy can open doors you thought were locked. Now, let us see which 5 stocks might be positioned to soar under this Trump-led environment. First, ExxonMobil. With relaxed environmental restrictions and a focus on domestic drilling, ExxonMobil might see rising production, stable oil prices, and higher profit margins. That could mean bigger dividends for shareholders. Second, Lockheed Martin. Trump has always emphasized a strong national defense and has shown willingness to allocate big budgets for military upgrades. Lockheed Martin, a key defense contractor, could land substantial government contracts. Third, Caterpillar. With infrastructure spending back on the agenda, Caterpillar's heavy machinery might be used to build highways, improve bridges, and modernize ports. Increased demand often boosts sales and share value. Fourth, JP Chase. Lower taxes, pro-business policies, and a relatively stable interest rate environment can translate into higher lending volume. JP Chase could enjoy strong profits, returning dividends or stock buybacks to investors. Fifth, Walmart. With more disposable income in American pockets, shoppers can afford to fill their carts. Walmart's core customer base might spend more on everything from groceries to household goods, lifting the retail giant's revenue. Of course, Trump's vision is not a guarantee of endless success. If trade disputes escalate, you might see tariffs raising prices on imported products. If the national debt grows too large, it could put pressure on the dollar. Still, these 5 companies might be strategically positioned to benefit from pro-business and pro-manufacturing policies, giving everyday investors an opportunity to share in the gains. So, which path is truly best for you? To decide, let us line up both scenarios and see how the pros and cons stack up. On one side, Harris seeks to tackle climate change aggressively, expand social safety nets, and raise corporate taxes, potentially leading to higher gas prices and interest rates aimed at taming inflation. Her supporters argue that these sacrifices are necessary for a healthier planet and more equitable access to healthcare. Critics counter that this approach risks stifling business growth, weakening the dollar, and passing larger bills on to average Americans. On the other side, Trump aims to accelerate domestic energy production, lower taxes, and put money back into the hands of everyday Americans. Supporters believe this approach fosters entrepreneurship, keeps inflation manageable, and strengthens the job market. Skeptics warn that relaxed regulations could harm the environment and that aggressive trade policies might spark global tensions, hurting exporters and driving up costs for consumers. Ultimately, the direction you favor might depend on your personal values, career field, and investment goals. If you work in renewable tech, you might flourish under Harris, but watch your grocery and fuel bills climb. If you are in manufacturing, Trump's policies could boost your paycheck, though you might worry about potential trade wars or national debt. Whether you prefer the progressive climate-forward model or the pro-business, low-tax environment, your success often depends on how well you prepare for policy swings. If you keep a watchful eye on legislation, interest rates, and consumer trends, you can adjust your investments accordingly. Diversification is key. Owning a mix of renewable energy, healthcare, banking, and manufacturing stocks can help you ride out market turbulence no matter who is steering the ship in Washington. In one timeline, Kamala Harris takes charge, pushing green initiatives while interest rates and gas prices creep upward, aimed at battling carbon emissions and funding social programs. In another, Donald Trump gets another 4 years championing American energy, slashing taxes and investing in infrastructure to strengthen the average American's dream of prosperity. 5 stocks: Tesla, First Solar, NextEra Energy, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson stand to benefit from Harris's agenda, though they face headwinds from potential inflation and high corporate taxes. Meanwhile, ExxonMobil, Lockheed Martin, Caterpillar, JP Morgan Chase, and Walmart look poised for gains under Trump's administration, even if global trade tensions and government spending could present long-term risks. Which direction would you choose for America's future? Are you worried about rising prices at the pump, or excited about the possibility of bigger paychecks and robust economic growth? Let us know in the comments. And before you go, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We will keep bringing you fresh insights into how politics, economics, and your financial well-being intersect. Thanks for watching, and here's to a brighter and more profitable tomorrow.